Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Bronwyn and today is day 3 of DCP week. I'm gonna have day 1 and 2 linked down below, so if you haven't seen those ones yet, go and check it out. But today being day 3 is going to be all about roommates and housing. As I am filming and posting this is May of 2020. There is a brand new complex that is opening up. I think it may have been opening like next season, but now with the global pandemic going on, I don't know if that's been pushed back or how things are going to change. So a lot of this information may be useless in like the next coming little bit, but I still wanted to give a little bit about what I know about the whole housing situation, and hopefully it helps you some. I do also want to mention for any of the like super upcoming seasons, I feel like a lot of this may change because of the whole coronavirus situation and everything. I don't necessarily know how they're going to implement some of those CDC regulations and recommendations and all of that, so be aware that a lot of this may change because of the current state of the world, but this is my experience with housing and roommates. During all 3 of my programs, I did live in company housing. However, it is not required that you do. It definitely makes it a little bit easier because you have transportation given to you, you have tons of events, rent is a little bit different. It just kind of makes things easier, especially if you're not looking to live in Orlando permanently. You're only doing it for the college program for a semester. There are 4 different complexes. There's Patterson, the Commons, Chatham Square, and Vista Way. For the most part, all 4 of the complexes are pretty much the same. There are some, I guess, perks / downgrades dependent on which one that you're in, but also they're all fine, they're all great, they're all gonna get the job done. I personally lived in Patterson for all 3 of my programs and had a great time there. Most of the complexes have 2 to 4 bedrooms in them, and each room will have 2 to 3 people in the rooms. For mine, I only ever had to share it with one other person. I never had to have bunk beds or anything like that, but be aware that some situations you might have bunk beds. I personally never did any sort of like apartment tour or anything on my channel. However, if you just search on YouTube like Patterson apartment tour or DCP apartment tour, you will be able to find tours of every single apartment complex. If you do live in housing, they do supply you with everything that you're going to need. It is a full apartment. You have a full-size kitchen, you get your oven, fridge, microwave, all of that kind of stuff. However, any extra appliances, like if you want a toaster or a blender or anything like that, you do have to supply that yourself. They also give you utensils, they give you pots and pans. Actually, I don't know if they give you pans. They definitely give you pots, I know. They give you cups and plates and all of that kind of stuff. I always suggest people just wait and see what you have in your apartment, and then if you decide that you need to go and get a muffin tin or you need to get another baking sheet, then just wait and do it once you see how much you're actually cooking, what you actually need, instead of just bringing in tons of things that you're not actually going to use. One thing that I always found to be super easy about living in housing is that your rent is automatically taken out of your paycheck. How much your rent costs depends on the season as well as how many roommates / what apartment complex you live in. When you do your registration for housing, you do get to rank where you want to live and like how many people you want in each apartment, that kind of stuff. It's not a guarantee that you will get the apartment that is number 1 on your list, but it just gives them an idea of what you are wanting. So yeah, rent being taken out automatically from your paycheck made things super easy because it helps you not have to budget money as much because you just never even see that money. You don't have to write a check to anybody. You don't have to direct deposit even. It automatically is taken when you get your paycheck. You don't have that money. I know that transportation is a big thing that people have tons and tons of questions about. You can bring a car with you if you want. There is a parking fee that you have to pay to get your parking pass. I know for me it was like $85 or so it is a little bit pricey. Be aware of that, but it is absolutely not necessary to bring a car. There are buses that run day and night. They can take you to and from work, which makes things super easy. They also go all over Orlando. They go to the Florida Mall, it goes to the post office, it goes to the grocery store. I think it probably goes to Target. That anywhere that you think you might need to go, they do have buses that can take you there. It's not only to and from work that they go to. In the like clubhouse of each of the different complexes, they do have a like bus map schedule. I guess it's a little bit of both. It'll tell you everywhere that it goes, what time it's at each of those locations, so it's definitely a good thing to keep on hand so that you have an idea of what time you need to leave before a shift starts, or if you're playing in the parks, what time you need to get to the bus stop, because there's nothing worse than getting to a bus stop as soon as you see the bus pulling away. For all of my programs, I brought a car just because I had the ability to, and it made things super duper easy. However, again, it's not a make or break situation. There also is, if you need to get somewhere and there maybe isn't a bus that goes there, you can obviously Uber or Lyft. Lyft. Hopefully you make friends with somebody that has a car, give them some gas money, and hopefully they'll drive you where you need to go. I had a lot of friends also that didn't have cars on their programs that if we got off or started around the same time of our shifts, I would offer to take them back to housing, because everything is within like one little bubble that it added on like 2 minutes to my drive, that you don't need to be worried about transportation. I promise you will get everywhere that you need to go, even if you don't have a car. Around at least the current CP housing area, right next to it is the outlet, so if you want to go shopping, that's in walking distance. There's a Publix and a Walgreens that's also in walking distance. Inside of, I think the only one is at the Commons, they do have a little like convenience store, so if you need anything right away or you don't want to walk all the way to Publix and carry it back, they have basically any sort of like convenience gas station kind of place would have, like chips and drinks and all that kind of stuff. Even if you don't live in the Commons where that is located, you can still, with your ID, you can get into any of the complexes. All of the complexes also have gyms, so if you like to work out or you want to start working out, they do have gyms at all of them. All of the gyms at each of the complexes are a little bit different. Some are bigger, some are smaller, but if you find that you really love the gym at Chatham but you live in the Commons, you can always walk over to Chatham just to use that gym. All of the complexes have pools as well, which is very nice because Florida is a hot place and it's nice to be able to go hang out in the sun a little bit too. Housing also always has tons of different events and trips that you can go to that, as long as you're a CP, even if you don't necessarily live in housing, you could still be a part of. They have welcome events, they'll do grocery bingo, they have just different random movie nights, they have for the fall program, they do a like winter formal, and for the spring, they do Starlit Splash. They rent out, I think it's a Typhoon Lagoon. I never did a spring program, so I never got to go to that. They also will do like day trips to the beach, just different places, like they'll go to Tampa for a baseball game or something, like random things here and there. They send out emails every week that has a list of the events. Also, if you go to the little clubhouse, they have a whole calendar that you can look at all of the events. I personally did not take as much advantage of those things as I should have, because especially once I got park access, I just wanted to go to the park, or I was working a ton, so it didn't always work with my schedule to be able to go to some of those events. But it's definitely a cool thing that housing does, and that initial application fee that you pay helps cover that stuff. What I think is the funnest and cutest event that CP housing does is that they have a graduation. Depending on what your departure date is, like I know for me, my graduation was like 3 weeks before my program actually ended, but it's super cute. They have Mickey and Minnie normally in their little graduation robes. Depending on the theme of the graduation, they'll have different like special characters, and they're normally like super cool characters that you can't always meet in the parks. You get some graduation ears. It's just like the classic Mickey hat, and it has the little tassel coming out of it. You get a fun little memory box. You can get a graduation certificate. They have food catered for it. That's the one event that I always tell people, try and go to that one if you can, because it's super fun and super cute. If for some reason you do work during that event, you can still go and get all of your graduation things from just like the clubhouse. Just tell them you didn't get to go to graduation and they'll give you everything, which is important because not everybody has the ability to go, because if you have a shift during that time, you can't call out just to go to the graduation. All of the complexes do have laundry facilities, but they're a little different depending on which one that you live in. The Commons is the only one that has a washer and dryer in each of the apartment units. All of the other complexes have like little laundromats throughout the like area of the complex. There's not just one central one at each of the locations. They have probably like 5 to 10 in each of the actual complexes, so it's not like you're gonna have to walk super far, but it isn't gonna be like directly in your apartment. If you live in the Commons, because the laundry is inside of your apartment, it is free. That does make the Commons a little bit more expensive. All of the other complexes, you do have to pay to do laundry. You don't have to necessarily have quarters. If you want to use them, you can, but they do have like a card swipe, so you can just use your card to pay for it. Makes it a little bit easier. It's only like $3 to do an entire load in the washer and dryer, but keep in mind that you are gonna have to pay for it. The next thing that I want to talk about is roommates. The number of roommates that you're going to be able to link with, as they call it, basically just who you pick to live with, is completely dependent on the season. My first 2 programs, I was able to link with 5 other people to make us a group of 6. My last program, I could only link with 1 other person. There are also times where you can't link with anybody. So going into it, be aware that you most likely at some point are going to have some random roommates. You don't necessarily have to choose your roommates. Even if you have the option to, you can always put that you would rather just have random ones. I think it's really important though, regardless if you're doing random or you pick who you're gonna live with, to be optimistic about it. You don't get to fill out any sort of questionnaire or anything to kind of like get to know who you are and link you with people that you're similar to. I know a lot of like colleges and such will do that. So be optimistic that your living situation is gonna be what you make of it. If you want to never speak to your roommates and not be friends with them at all, you can do that, or you can work really hard to try and be friends with them, completely dependent on what you're looking to get out of your housing situation. If you are hoping to link with other roommates, the best place to look is on the Facebook pages. Like I had said, if you just search on Facebook Disney College Program on whatever season you're applying for, it's very easy to find the pages. People are always posting what we call roommate surveys, which is more of a like, get to know me, this is how I am, this is where I live, this is what I like, this is the role that I have, just so you can try and hopefully find people that are similar to you. When I was able to pick my roommates, I found all of mine through the Facebook page, and for the most part, it all worked out for me. I do know some people that pick their roommates and it still doesn't turn out 100% great, so again, be optimistic of everything and hopefully everything works out. Even if you want to go with random roommates, I do always suggest people go and look through the Facebook page because it's also a super easy way to make friends. So many people go into the program not knowing anybody, that just because they're maybe not somebody that you're planning to live with, it can still be somebody that you can be friends with. If for some reason maybe you and your roommates don't get along as well as you would like to, I know for me, I spent very little time in my apartment. I really only used it to sleep at. I worked a lot of hours, and if I wasn't working, I normally was playing in the parks or just exploring Florida in general. That if maybe your living situation isn't ideal, you don't necessarily have to spend all of your time there. One of the rules that Disney has with housing is that you can't have any overnight guests. I feel like that's something that maybe people don't know or that they need to plan ahead for and be aware of. If you have friends coming into town, you have family coming into town, even if you just have friends that live in other apartments, either in your complex or in a different one, you are not allowed to have overnight guests. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So be aware of that. You may have to get a hotel if you have friends and such coming and you want to stay with them. Like I said before, information about the housing complexes and everything is always changing. It is completely dependent on the season, especially with the new complex that's about to open back up. I think that's kind of taking place of the 4 that they currently have, is how they're like trying to do it. So be aware that this information is not a guarantee and that it can always change. But hopefully this gave you a little bit of an idea of how the housing process works and how linking and such with roommates works too. If you have any other questions, be sure to comment down below, and hopefully I or any other cast members that have done a CP are watching this can hopefully answer some of those for you. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see y'all again real soon. Bye!